All praises only belong to Allah and Allah alone. For Allah is the Lord of the worlds. Any excellence that you see in anything or anyone, all praises are for Allah, for Allah was the creator of the excellence. For me, there is no excellence. If on the day of judgment, Allah has mercy upon me, and I'm saved from the fire of hell, for me there is no bigger blessing than that. Everything else is a bonus. My young friends, for this session, who is the most worthy of your love and my love? Out of all the human beings that Allah has ever created in the past, that Allah is creating as you listen to this reminder, and this Ajiz Fakir delivers this reminder. And out of all the human beings that Allah will ever create right till the day of judgment, my young friends, there is no one more worthy of your love, more worthy of my love, more than Sayyid al-Awwaleen wal-Akhirin, Rahmatul lil-Alameen, Muhammad al-Amin, Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. The love my Nabi had for you, the love my Nabi had for me, the love my Nabi had for every single member of his ummah, my young friends, words cannot describe. The human mind cannot even begin to imagine the level of that love. For man has never seen an example of that love in the past. Man has not seen the level of that love at present. Man will not see an example of that love in the future, right till the day of judgment. Your Rabb says, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا أَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَؤُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Your Rabb is describing the love that your Nabi had for you and I. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. How much love do you think that your Nabi had, that your Rabb described it in his book, and it will be recited right till the day of judgment, and your Rabb considers it a thing worthy of his praise. Words cannot describe that love. Whatever I share with you today, my young friends, it will not be justice to the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But in a nutshell, my young friends, you and I, with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's day, you and I, with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's night. It will not be an exaggeration to say that you and I, with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life. My young friends, you were his primary concern in the dunya, and you will be his primary concern in the akhirah. Your Nabi loved you more than you love yourself. There was not a single day in which your Nabi and my Nabi didn't remember you. There was not a single day in which your Nabi did not pray for you. How many from amongst us, my young friends, do not make dua for themselves every single day? Never mind every single day, my young friends. Your Nabi remembered you in every single prayer. Abu Aisha radiallahu ta'ala one day on seeing that the Prophet ﷺ is in a good mood, she takes advantage and she says, Ya Rasulullah, make dua for Aisha. The Prophet ﷺ raises his hands and make dua. He makes dua. Oh my master, I want you to forgive all the sins of Aisha O my master, I want you to forgive her minor sins. I want you to forgive her major sins. O my master, I want you to forgive the sins that she did openly. I want you to forgive the sins that she did secretly. O Allah, I want you to forgive the sins that she did intentionally. And I want you to forgive the sins that she did unintentionally. Our mother, as Aisha radiallahu ta'ala, was so pleased. And why wouldn't one be pleased? This is the Nabi of Allah making dua. The one, when he calls upon Allah, he's never rejected. And he's prayed for purification. Our mother, as Aisha radiallahu ta'ala, was so happy that her head fell in the lap of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked, "O Aisha, does my dua for you please you?" And she said, "Ya Rasulullah, and why wouldn't your dua for me not please me?" Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "O Aisha, this is the dua that I make for every single member of my ummah in every single salah." He did not forget you in the dunya. You were his primary concern. And my Nabi will not forget you in the akhirah when you and I will be in need like you've never ever been in need. The whole of mankind is suffering like it's never ever suffered before. You will never have witnessed a scene like this before. And you will not witness a scene like this ever again. Billions and billions of people on the plane of resurrection, suffering like never before, the sun above their heads, drowning in sweat, Jahannam on the plane of resurrection. Tears of blood flowing from your eyes. You're crying like you've never cried before. And you're turning to Adam, you're turning to Nuh, you're turning to Ibrahim, Ismail, Ishaq, Dawood, Yahya, Zakaria, Yasa, Ilyas, and you're begging for intercession, and every single one of them turns you away with the words flowing from their lips, Nafsi, Nafsi, Nafsi. And you finally turn to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My young friends, the words that will be flowing from the lips of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just like in the dunya, ummati, ummati, the fikr and concern was none other than his ummah. For you and me, my young friends, on that day, the words that will be flowing from the lips of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be ummati, ummati. Oh my master, I beg you. My ummah is suffering like never before. Oh my master, have mercy upon the ummah. Oh my master, come and judge the ummah. Millions and millions will be taken out of Jahannam because of the love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has for this ummah and because of his intercession. You were his primary concern in the dunya, and you will be his primary concern in the akhirah. Just like your Nabi loved you, my young friends, my Nabi and your Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam wants you to love him. How much does your Nabi want you to love him? Why do we ask our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If your Nabi was alive today, he's alive in the grave, but if he was alive today, here and now, right in front of you, in this gathering, and you were to ask your Nabi, Ya Rasulullah, I'm your ummati, I'm Abdullah, I declare there's no God worthy of worship but Allah, and Ya Rasulullah, I declare you are the messenger of Allah, you are the Habib of Allah. Ya Rasulullah, you want us to love you. Tell me, Ya Rasulullah, how much do you want me to love you? My young friends, what do you think your Nabi would say to you? What do you think your Nabi would say to you? My young friends, never mind what you think. This is what your Nabi has said, and this is what your Nabi would say to you and I if the Prophet ﷺ was in this gathering right in front of us and you were to ask this question to the Prophet ﷺ. He would say, "O Abdullah, wa Aisha, Abdul Rahman, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. O Abdullah, O Aisha, you cannot perfect your iman till I, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, does not become more dear to you than your mother, your brother, your father, your sister, your sons, your daughters, till I do not become more dear to you than the whole of mankind. You cannot perfect your iman and your Islam and your faith. My young friends, lovers, every now and then when they're sitting together, they will ask one another, tell me. They will ask their lover, tell me, how much do you love me? Every person likes to be valued. Every person likes to be loved. And every person, every now and then, likes to hear how much is loved. If your wife were to ask you, tell me, how much do you love me? What would your response be? In your early days, would be your response. Not when your hair turns grey. But in your early days, your response would be, I love you, my darling. I love you more than this dunya and everything within it. You are my day, you are my night. I cannot think beyond you, talk beyond you. You are my life. Your love is in my every joint, in my every bone, and it flows in my every vein. My young friends, this is how much your Nabi and my Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wants you to love him. This is what this hadith means. This is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. O Abdullah, O Abdul Rahman, O Aisha, I want you to love me. I want you to love me more than your mother. O Abdullah, I want you to love me more than your father. O Abdullah, I want you to love me more than your brother, more than your sisters, your nephews, your nieces, your wife, your sons, your daughters. قل إن كان آباؤكم وأبناؤكم وإخوانكم وأزواجكم وعشيرتكم وأموال اقترفتموها وتجارة تخشون كسادها. I want you to love me more than your cars. I want you to love me more than your businesses. I want you to love me more than your palaces. Oh Abdullah, I want you to love me more than everything. Oh Abdullah, I want you to love me more than you love yourself. This is how much Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wants you and I to love him. Yes, at this moment in time, you're probably struggling to comprehend. Myself, yes, my young friends, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wants you and I to love him more than we even love ourselves. When the great Umar Farooq heard these beautiful words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he thought that this hadith is referring to hubbe tabi'i, natural love, natural inclination of the heart. Zahir baat hai, no one has power over the natural inclination of the heart. No one has power over that. A person loves his children, but he doesn't have control over his heart. This is why you find you love one child more than another. There are so many people in this gathering, it's not necessary that you love them all. And if you do, your level of love for each one will be different. No one has control over that. Prophet ﷺ himself, with regards to his wives, he was married more than once. He says, Ya Allah, I've done the best in terms of being just, but I have no control over this. I have no control over the inclination of the heart. So Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala, when the Prophet ﷺ said these beautiful words, that you cannot be a kamil mu'min, you cannot perfect iman and faith till I do not become more dear to you than the whole of mankind. He thought the Prophet ﷺ is referring to hubbe tabi'i, the natural inclination of the heart. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, I love you more than my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my sons, my daughters. But Ya Rasulullah, I do not love you more than I love myself. And indeed, every human being loves himself more than he loves anyone. So the Prophet ﷺ said, O Umar, you cannot be a believer till I do not become more dear to you than even yourself. When the Prophet ﷺ said this, Umar now understood that this saying of Rasulullah is not referring to hub'i tab'i, the natural inclination of the heart. That the hadith is referring to hubbi aqli, ikhtiyari, whereby choice you give preference to the Prophet ﷺ over your businesses, over your houses, over your mothers, over your fathers, over your sons, over your daughters, where you give preference to the Prophet ﷺ when the crunch comes, even over yourself. And Zahir baat hai, in this regard, Umar Farooq could sacrifice, never mind his mother, his father, Umar Farooq could sacrifice his own life 1,000,000 times for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When a munafiq and a Yahudi had a dispute, the Yahudi said, let us go to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to resolve the matter. And the munafiq said, no, let's go to Ka'b ibn Ashraf. Either way, they went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam listened to their case, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ruled in the favor of the Yahudi. The hypocrite wasn't happy with the decision of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he said, let's go to Umar Farooq. So the Yahudi went with him to Umar Farooq. The Yahudi said to Umar Farooq that we've already been to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam ruled in my favor. This hypocrite wasn't happy with the decision of Rasulullah, so he's brought me to you. Umar said, wait, both of you wait. I will decide between you. And Umar went inside and brought out his sword, struck him once and took off his head. And he said, this is the decision of Umar for one that is not happy with the decision of Rasulullah. And this is where he got his title Al-Faruq. Umar could sacrifice his life 1,000,000 times over for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And every human being, as in a Muslim, will have this love in his heart to some degree. Even the biggest sinner on planet Earth will have this love in his heart to some degree. And you see it surface. Balki, my young friends, when the Prophet ﷺ is belittled or insulted, who are the first people that you see coming out on the streets to defend the honor of Rasulullah? Who do you see? The very people that we've written off because they don't have beards. The very people that you and I have written off because they may have an earring or a bangle or a gold chain or a Mohican. My young friends, when the Prophet ﷺ is being insulted and belittled, you will see these are the people, their love will surface for Rasulullah, and they will be the first people to take to the streets to defend the honor of Rasulullah and voice that this is incorrect and wrong. You can never write anyone off. You can never judge a book by its cover. Unfortunately, today, my young friends, we will look down on people because they don't have a beard. I'm not saying the beard is not important. Without doubt, every sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is important. And without doubt, shaving a beard is not permissible. But beard is not the whole deen. Just like people that don't pray, we look down upon them. I'm not saying salah is not important. But my young friends, deen and Islam, there's not just one aspect in the deen, and that is salah and nothing else. How many of those that you see reading salah with big beards, when they leave the masjid, they're selling dope on the streets or they're taking spliffs on an evening? How many people that you see reading salah in the first saf, but then they're doing fraud, making claims, committing different types of guna? No one knows the reality of any individual. And no one knows what maqam and what level an individual is on. Even though zahiran, he may not fit the bill. Your bill, my bill. Zahiran, looking at his appearance, there might be some weakness in terms of his obedience. There might be some weakness in terms of the way he portrays himself. But my young friends, no one knows the reality of an individual and what level his maqam is in the sight of Allah and how much love he has for Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his heart. How many friends, my young friends, how many individuals that when you look at them, there's nothing there. But inside their hearts they have regard for Allah and His Rasul to such a level that those that have spent their lives in prostration cannot get anywhere near them. I'll give you one example. This incident was relayed to me by a wali of Allah who experienced this. He said, it's okay, it's all good. Part 2. This incident was related to me by a big wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is his personal experience. And I heard it directly from him, so there's no third source. He says, what happened one day, I was walking and I saw a man dancing. Just like in city centres and town centres, you have people sometimes playing guitars. And they'll have a bowl next to them and people putting money inside it. And they'll just entertain. So there was no bowl in front of him or anything. But he was He was enjoying it. He was getting a buzz out of it. And he was in his own world dancing. So I decided to stop there and watch him dance. He says, another Allah, godly person, walked by. And he also stopped there to watch him dance. He said, this guy is dancing. After a short while, whilst this guy is must in his dancing, he goes up to him and he whispers something. Whatever he whispered in his ear, the man stopped there and then. What he'd whispered in his ear was simply this: fear Allah and come to the house of Allah. He heard the name of Allah once. The point that I'm making is, you never know. A person from the outward could look like a goner. There's no hope. But inside, you never know. He heard the name of Allah once and he froze. This, my young friends, is something impossible to do. Look at it like this. Somebody that takes dope is on heroin and is now taking that heroin. What planet do you think he'll be on whilst he's on that heroin? And now you tell him in that state, I want you to leave it. Will he ever leave it? Never. He's on a different level. Likewise, he was that must in his dancing and he was getting that much of a buzz that for him to leave that was virtually impossible. But when he heard the name of Allah once, fear Allah and come to the house of Allah, he stopped and he went with this guy. Now this person is watching all this. He doesn't know what's being said. And he's seen both of them leave. So he says, I decided to follow them. Where are they going? They went to the masjid. I followed them inside the masjid. This Allah Wala's told him to go make wudu. We're going to read salah. He's gone into the wudu khana. He doesn't know how to make wudu. Now, how far from the deen do you think somebody is? That you've got 5 daily prayers, you can't pray without wudu. Children at the age of 3, 4 will know how to perform wudu, and this individual doesn't know how to perform wudu. And there's no one inside the masjid, so he's just puzzled, bamboozled, what do I do? The second Allah is already inside the masjid, in the wudu khana. So he teaches him how to perform wudu. And he performs wudu. If he did not know how to perform wudu, do you think he knows how to read namaz? So he's gone now to read namaz with that same Allah wa'ala that said, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's just following his actions. And he read the namaz. After salah, that same Allah wa'ala gave him a little bit of advice. Fear Allah. Leave this. Turn to your Rabb. There's hope for you. One of these days, you are going to become near and dear to your master. This is what he said to him. And then he said to the other Allah wa'ala, I want you to embrace this individual. For this individual one day will become near and dear to Allah, and you will receive all his reward, because you are the one that taught him how to pray. You are the one that taught him how to perform wudu. The person that narrated to me this story to me said the story came to an end. And he went. He says 20 to 22 years down the line, I was making muraqabah. And in muraqabah, I met this individual. The level that I'm talking about at this moment in time, my young friends, there are not many people on planet Earth that are on that level. So you can just imagine the level that I'm on, that I'm talking about. He says, I met him in muraqabah, and he came up to me and said, don't you recognize me? I said, no. He says, you are the one that taught me how to perform wudu 20 to 22 years ago. You never know. You can't judge a book by its cover. Everyone, to some degree will have this love in his soul, heart and mind, and it will surface. The companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had this love to a phenomenal level, where at all times they would only give preference to Rasulullah over their mothers, their brothers, their fathers, their sisters, their sons, their daughters. They would give preference to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam over themselves. Not only did they possess this love, hubbi aqli ikhtiyari, whereby choice they gave preference to Rasulullah on a phenomenal level. My young friends, if you study the lives of the companions of Rasulullah, you will come to this conclusion. Their love, their hubbi tab'i, the natural inclination of their heart, my young friend, was more towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And remember, this is something in which a person doesn't have choice and ikhtiyar. Their natural inclination towards Rasulullah was more than their inclination towards their children, towards their mothers, towards their sons and their daughters. Open the books of hadith. Open Bukhari, Muslim, and you'll come to the hadith of Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And he says, إِنِّي لَوَاقِفٌ يَوْمَ بَدْرٍ فِي الصَّفِ. In the battle of Badr, I was standing in the fighting line. You have 313 to one side, and you have 1,000 on the other side. He says, I was standing in the fighting line. فَنَزَرْتُ أَنْ يَمِينِي وَشِمَالِي فَإِذَنْ أَنَا بَيْنَ غُلَامَيْنِ مِنَ الْأَنصَارِ. I look over my right shoulder, and then I look over my left shoulder. What do I see? I see 2 youngsters from the Ansar standing on either side. تَمَنَّيْتُ أَنْ أَكُونَ بَيْنَ أَضْلَعْ مِنْهُمَا. When I saw these youngsters on either side, a thought crossed my mind. Okay, only, we're going to fight these kuffar now. There's 1,000 strong, we're a mere 313. Only if I was standing between two strong men, so when the battle begins and if I'm in need, they will come to my rescue and they will be able to help me. It says, these were the thoughts that were crossing my mind as we stood there waiting for the battle to begin. When all of a sudden one of them held my hand and said, Ya Amma, O Chacha, hal ta'rifu Aba Jahl? Do you know who Abu Jahl is? Abu Jahl wasn't an ordinary individual. You can see what level Abu Jahl was because the Prophet ﷺ would make this dua. Allahumma izz al-Islam bi Umar ibn al-Khattab or bi Abi Jahl ibn Hisham. Oh Allah, I want you to strengthen Islam, give izzat to Islam by either giving Umar Farooq tawfiq to declare the kalima la ilaha illallah, or by either giving Abu Jahl the tawfiq to declare the kalima la ilaha illallah. The dua of Rasulullah was answered in the favor of Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala. But this is the individual for whom Rasulullah would make dua to Allah. Give Islam izzat, respect, strength by giving this person the tawfiq to declare the kalima. He was from amongst the leaders of the Quraysh. And this child is asking with regards to him. So Abdurrahman ibn Auf says, when this child asked me with regards to Abu Jahl, I asked, وَمَا حَاجَتُكَ إِلَيْهِ? Oh my son, tera usse kya wasta? Why are you asking about him? What need do you have? He said, O chacha, أخبرت أنه يسب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والذي نفسي بيده لئن رأيته لا يفارق سواده حتى يموت العاجل منا. He said, O chacha, I've been informed that this wretched man insults my Nabi. I swear by the one in whose hands my life is in. If I see Abu Jahl today, then I will not let Abu Jahl be. Either I will kill him, or either I will be killed by him. Two of us together cannot walk on this dunya. He says, فَتَعَجَّبْتُ لِذَلِكَ. I don't know what hit me. What was I thinking? And look at the iman and love of this bacha. He says, meanwhile, the other one holds my hand. And he asked me the same question. هَلْ تَعْرِفُ أَبَا جَحَلْ? And I asked, وَمَا حَاجَتُكَ عَلَيْهِ? Why do you ask? And he also says, أُخْبِرْتُ أَنَّهُ يَسُبَّ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Chacha, the reason I'm asking you is because people have told me that this person insults my Nabi. I swear by the one whose hands my life is in. If I see him, I will not let him be today. I will kill him, or I will be killed by him. He says, meanwhile, I saw Abu Jahl on the battlefield, on his horseback, dashing from to and fro. When I saw him, I said to the boys, there's the object of your quest. The person that you're looking for, there he is on that horse. He says, without thinking, without hesitating, both boys run towards him. Abu Jahl was on foot. Abu Jahl was on horseback, and the children were on foot. They're running towards him. One of them attacks the horse. The other one attacks Abu Jahl. Down goes the horse. Down goes Abu Jahl. And finally Abdullah bin Mas'ud severed his head from his body, and Abu Jahl is no more. You know, the amazing thing is, one of the boys says, Mu'adh ibn Amr, he says, when I attacked Abu Jahl, his son Ikramah was with him. He attacked me on my shoulder, cutting off my arm, leaving it hanging by the skin only. My arm was dangling, hanging by the skin only. He says, I took this broken arm and I threw it over my shoulder, and I kept on fighting with the other hand. How can you do that? How can you do that? You know, it's so easier to say subhanallah when we hear stories like this. But reality is we haven't understood. You know, sit sometimes and just sit and ponder. You know, when sometimes skin peels, small millimeter, 2 millimeter of skin comes loose. Now try pulling it. Try pulling it and taking it off. How much pain you will feel. So what do? Resort to a nail cutter to cut it off. a thorn pricks you and I. You could be 6'6", hatta katta no jawan. You'll be asking for your mother. That's how much pain you and I will feel. And here, his arm is hanging by the skin only. How much blood must be gushing? Koi fikr nahi. Don't you think he was in pain? How can you not be in pain? How can you not be in pain? But my young friends, when your level of love is on that level, that degree, then that love makes you forget any pain. He says, I threw it over and I kept on fighting. But when I found it too difficult to carry on like this, what did I do? I severed it from my body. How? I placed it under my foot and I pulled myself up and I threw the broken arm away and I continued to fight. Battle of Uhud. Many a Muslim has become shaheed and many a Muslim has become injured. The false rumor, قَدْ قُتِلَ Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that Muhammad has been killed, has spread. People are returning. When this news reaches Madinatul Munawwara, the women and the children and some of the ma'zureen, the invalids that didn't go to the battle and participate, are of fikr, concern and love for Rasulullah, to know the reality of what has happened, who's died, who's injured. They start crying and coming out of their houses. And the woman says to the others, okay, do not make haste, let me go and find out the reality. She leaves her house and her only fikr and concern is of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and no one else. She wants to know how the Nabi of Allah is, and she meets a crowd of people and she asks them, "Kima fa'ala Rasulullah?" That this rumor that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been killed, what is the reality behind this? How is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? She's informed that in this battle your father was killed, your father was martyred. She utters, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un." To Allah we belong, and to Allah we will all return. Tell me, ma fa'ala Rasulullah, how is the Nabi of Allah? She's now informed that in this battle your husband was martyred. She utters, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un." To Allah we belong, and to Allah we will all return, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow. Tell me, how is my beloved? How is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? She's now informed that in this very same battle your husband was martyred. She utters, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un." To Allah we belong, and to Allah we will return. Ma fa'ala Rasulullah, how is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Some narrations mention that in this same battle she is then informed that your son was also martyred, and she uttered, "Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un." To Allah we belong, and to Allah we will return. How is my beloved Nabi? How is Rasulullah? How can anyone behave like this? Were they not human beings? Was this a different breed? Another creation? No, my young friends, there was no difference between the companions of Rasulullah and you and I, in the sense that they were human beings. They had feelings, they had emotions, they had hearts. She's just lost more or less every single male member of her family. My young friends, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're all sitting here in this gathering. You've left your family members at home. Whether it's your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, and you left them in good health. There was nothing wrong with them. And may Allah keep them like this. But here and now in this gathering, let's say you receive a text that your father's passed away. Let us see what your reaction will be. What do you think my reaction will be? How many people, my young friends, when there's a death in their family, when they lose a near and dear one, they end up with depression? How many people, when they lose a near and dear one, depending on how much ta'alluq and connection they had with this individual and how much love they had with this individual, my young friends, they become insane and ended up in houses which take care of people that are insane. Look at the strength of iman here. Not one, not two, not three, four. There's no wailing. Hadith doesn't mention anything to do with wailing, losing sense, going crazy. Look at the words that keep on flowing from the tongue. Ma fa'ala Rasulullah. You can only do this, my young friends, when the natural inclination of the heart towards, in this case, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is far greater than the inclination of the heart to any other member of the family. Other than that, you could never do this. It doesn't stop. She's still asking ma fa'ala Rasulullah, and when she's told khayran ya umma fulan, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is fine and well, huwa bihamdillahi kama tuhibbin, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is just as you would desire and want, in a good state. She says, nay, I want to see Aruni, I want to see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with my own eyes. I will not get sukoon and itminan till I do not see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with my own eyes. And when she's taken to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she clings on to the garment of Rasulullah and she says to the Nabi of Allah, Ya Rasulullah, kullu musibatin ba'daka jalalun. O my beloved Nabi, now that I've seen you, just by looking at you, every difficulty has been removed. Every difficulty has been made easy and every worry has been removed. Just by looking at your blessed face, that you are fine and well. Zabani Hal says, she was saying, Ya Rasulullah, I can tolerate the loss of a mother, of a father, of a brother, of a sister. I can tolerate the loss of the whole of mankind. But Ya Rasulullah, the loss that I cannot tolerate is your loss. For there is no one more dear to me than you. Talha bin Ubaidillah. From amongst those with regards who the verse of the Quran, من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما أحد الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا, was revealed. Battle of Uhud again, 3,000 to one side, 700 plus minus to the other side. And in spite of their weak numbers, the Muslims at the beginning got the upper hand and they were victorious to such a degree that the kuffar do not know what's hit them and they begin to flee from the battlefield. Muslims are overjoyed. They leave their positions, and the Prophet ﷺ told the archers not to do this. Even if birds come from the heavens and snatch, do not leave your positions. But they saw that the kuffar are running away from the battlefield. There's no one there. People are taking their booty. They became ghafil, heedless of the teachings of Rasulullah, and they went and joined them and started taking their booty. Khalid bin Walid saw that they left their positions. He was a master even before he embraced Islam. He launches a counter-attack. They come back. Muslims are caught in the middle and they're trapped. Attacked by the kuffar, they don't know what's hit them. Rumor spreads that the Prophet ﷺ has been killed, and the Muslims begin to flee in all directions, leaving the battlefield. A time came when there were only 11 Ansari left with the Prophet ﷺ. And you've got this whole kafir army there. The kuffar, on seeing that this is a golden opportunity to put an end to Islam and the Nabi of Islam, they start showering arrows. They start shouting arrows upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Arrows are being showered upon Rasulullah. What does Sayyidina Talha bin Ubaidillah do? He jumps in front of Rasulullah and becomes a human shield. He jumps in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and becomes a human shield. The arrows are coming towards him. And these were the words that history recorded, hadith recorded, that were flowing from the lips of Talha. بأبي أنت وأمي يا رسول الله. بأبي أنت وأمي يا رسول الله. May my parents be sacrificed for you, O Messenger of Allah. You and I also say this. We all say this. We all say that there's no one that we love more than Rasulullah. We all say this. We all say that we'll be prepared to sacrifice our lives for Rasulullah. Yet my young friends, the reality is, and it may hurt all of us, but we need to acknowledge the reality, because if we do not acknowledge the reality, we will never be able to make tawbah and change. What part of our life is in accordance to the teachings of Rasulullah? We love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is what our tongue utters. You declare La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. There is no God worthy of worship but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the messenger of Allah. What part of our life is in accordance to the teachings of Rasulullah? I'm not in a position to judge you. You're not in a position to judge me. Let me ask myself, you ask yourself. When you sit down to eat, just look at the way you eat. Is your eating in accordance with the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Are you reciting Bismillah? Are you eating with your right hand? And all the sunnahs. Likewise, when you go to relieve yourself, which foot do you enter with? Or do you actually know there's a sunnah there? Which foot do you leave with? Do you stand? Do you sit down? What is the sunnah? Are you aware of this? When you are interacting with your wife, how do you address her? How did the Nabi of Allah address our mother Aisha? How did the Prophet ﷺ speak? Was the sunnah there? How did the Prophet ﷺ interact with the wider community? My young friends, when you start analyzing and looking at yourself and the way you live your life, my young friends, you will see that our lives are not in accordance to the teachings of Rasulullah. How can a person be a lover that goes against every teaching of his beloved? I ask you to do something. You say no. I ask you to do another thing. You say no. I ask you to do a third thing. What you do is completely opposite. I ask you to do a fourth thing. What you do is completely opposite. I ask you to do a fifth thing. You don't do it. In everything, either you don't do it or either you're opposing me. And then at the same time you're saying, "Oh Ahmad, there's no one that I love on earth more than you." Tell me, my young friend, who will believe you? Who will believe you? If that was you and I made this claim, would you believe me? Sign of love of Rasulullah is obedience. Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ahabbani ittaba'a sunnati." Man ahabbani ittaba'a sunnati. Allah says, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهِ. If you love Allah, what is the sign of loving Allah and His Rasul? What is the sign of loving Allah and His Rasul? And if you want your Lord to love you, and you want to become near and dear to your master, and you want your master to forgive your gunas, what is the sign? Allah saying, فَاتَّبِعُونِي, follow Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If you follow Muhammad, then you are true in your claim that you love Allah and you love Rasulullah. And if you do not follow Muhammad, then you cannot be true in your claim that you love Allah and you love Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My young friends, Talha bin Ubaidullah is there. The words are flowing from his lips. May my parents be sacrificed for you. He says, Ya Rasulullah, La yusibuka sahmun nahri duna nahri. No arrow will touch you. My life comes before yours. My life before yours. No arrow will touch you. and he's stopping the arrows with his bare hands. Who can do that? I give you the example of skin. Who can do that? You know, when a person's on dope and he's intoxicated, you can say what you like to him. It doesn't make a difference to him. He's on a high. He's not here. He's on a different planet. And he's getting a buzz. He's enjoying every moment whilst he's taking that substance. It's a bad example, but it's one that you all understand. My young friends, the companions of Rasulullah were intoxicated with this level of love. That the sweetness of the love would make them forget the bitterment of the punishment, the bitterment of the pain. I'll give you an example. You've gone for a curry. What have you got here? Lal Qilla, Birmingham? Nawabs? Milo Hose. That's Bradford. Not a problem. You've got Milo Hose, or Nawab or whatever it may be, and you've gone for a curry. So you sit on your table, having your curry, and you've seen this European sitting on a table right opposite you. He's ordered a vindaloo. You don't know he's ordered a vindaloo, but he's ordered a vindaloo. And he's sitting there, and he's got his tissue like this. Okay? And it's hot. It's a hot vindaloo. You know that does some serious damage, especially the next day. So he's eating it, okay? He's got this tissue, and tears are flowing from his eyes. And you're sitting there looking at him, and you're thinking, this guy is crying. Maybe his mother's died, maybe his father's died, maybe his wife's left him and gone off with the guy next door. So, these are thoughts that are crossing your mind. That this guy is in some musibat and some pain. My young friends, if you went to that guy and took that vindaloo from him, do you think he'd give it to you? He wouldn't give it to you. But if you look at his zahir state, it shows that he is suffering. So here, when you looked at the zahir state, like Bilal, Sayyidina Bilal Habshi radiallahu ta'ala, when they would persecute and torture him and drag him in the scorching heat of Arabia, 50 degrees, and then whip him and place stones on him, he was a human being. If I take a stick now and start hitting you, or you take a stick and start hitting me, I'm going to feel the pain. There's no way you can't feel the pain. But Sayyidina Bilal Habshi radiallahu ta'ala was intoxicated for the love, with the love for Allah and His Rasul, to such a degree that whilst in that state they would beat him and do whatever, the sweetness of the love of Allah and His Rasul would overpower it, and it would make him forget the bitterness of the pain. ذاق طعم الإيمان. Who will taste the maza of Iman? ثلاث من كن فيه. Anyone that possesses 3 qualities will taste the sweetness of Iman. When Muhaddithin commented on this hadith, okay, what does it mean? That he'll taste the sweetness of Iman. What does it mean? Some shurrah will say, okay, what it means, he'll actually literally taste it. Just like when you have a doner kebab, it's got a taste. Just like when you're having mango juice, it's got a taste. So Iman has a taste. And anyone that possesses these qualities, okay, Allah and His Rasul are more dear to him than anything. He loves a person, he only loves him for the sake of Allah and the pleasure of Allah, not dunya. And he dislikes to return to kufr after Allah has saved him. These 3 qualities, anyone that possesses these 3 qualities, he will actually taste the sweetness of Iman. So shurrah say, just like mango has a taste, just like a doner kebab has a taste, vindaloo has a taste, Iman has a taste. And this person will get to a level where he will actually taste that sweetness of Iman. Whereas some shurrah say, okay, what this hadith means is that he'll get a buzz. Such a buzz, in all his worship. Even when he experiences difficulty in the deen, inside his heart, he will be with ease, sukoon, itminan, and he will be enjoying it. So here, Sayyidina Bilal Habshi radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Zahir is experiencing this difficulty. So this difficulty has pain. But the maza that he's getting inside his heart is overpowering him, overpowering that pain. This is why he said, Ahad, Ahad, O kafiru, you do as you please. Bilal will not leave the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why that person, whilst he's having that qur'ah, the maza that he's getting, that maza is far greater than the difficulty that he's experienced, that he's got to clean his nose and eyes every second. That's why he will give you the qur'ah. So here, Sayyidina Talha radiallahu ta'ala is feeling the pain when the arrows are hitting him. But the maza that he's getting defending Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is outweighing and making him forget and lessening the pain that he's feeling. And when they attack him with their swords, he places his body in front. In the act of protection, he received around 70 to 80 wounds on his body, every part of his body. His hand became shell paralyzed. What did he do after this? Subhanallah. 70, 80 wounds. You know, your tooth, there's a pain in it. You can't function. You'll eat your wife alive on that day. You leave your children alive on that day. You don't want anyone near you. She tells you to get something, you'll pounce upon her. That's just toothache, one tooth. That's normal. We're all like this. This is 70 to 80 zakham on his body. Not only is he functioning, my young friends, in this state, he carries Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Mount Uhud is a mount. He carries Rasulullah to the hill, and he carries Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to safety. You can only do that when the inclination of the heart is on a phenomenal level to Rasulullah. You can only do that when you do not think beyond your Nabi. For you, your Nabi is everything. And the love of Rasulullah is in your every bone, your every joint, and your every vein. Zayd ibn Dathina has been captured. He's in the gallows. And he's waiting to be executed. Abu Sufyan's there. Abu Sufyan was one of the greatest enemies of Islam. His daughter Habiba was our mother, Azwaj Mutahharat. So in that sense, he was the father-in-law of Rasulullah. He embraced Islam when Makkah was conquered, but before that, every battle, he came as an enemy to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Zayd ibn Dathina has been captured, he's been taken to the gallows to be executed. Abu Sufyan and Zahir, when a person now has got the death sentence, and you're in prison, and they've told you, okay, by 9 o'clock today, we're going to kill you. However they kill you. Put yourself in that position. What would be the thoughts that would be crossing your mind? First of all, my young friends, Jaan Pyari, everyone knows their life. Everyone knows their life. You'll be hoping, is there any chance, yeah? One way or another, this death sentence is quashed, it's delayed, so I can get a few more moments, a few more hours, a few more days. Jaan Pyari, that's the first thing that would cross your mind. If only something were to happen. Miraculously, they say that it was a mistake, it was mistaken identity, and my life saved. Other than this, thoughts will cross your mind. Yeah, if you've got children, you've got a wife, you'll be thinking about them. What will become of my wife? What will become of my sons? What will become of my daughters? You'll be thinking, yeah, this. Let me just come tell them, TK, no problem, you're going to kill me, but at least please convey this message to my daughter, convey this message to my wife. This would be the type of behavior when a person's about to leave this world. Look at Zayd ibn Dathina. Abu Sufyan, on seeing now is going to be executed, he takes advantage of this situation, knowing that in general at a time like this a man will be at his weakest, and a man at that time will bow to pressure. So he asked Zayd ibn Dathina, tell me, there's no Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam here, it's just you and me. Tell me, أتحب أن محمد الآن عندنا مكانك نضرب أنكه وأنك في أهلك. O Zayd, tell me, would you like it if Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was here now in your place? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was standing at the gallows, and instead of killing you, we were to kill him, and you were at home enjoying life with your family. Would you like this? Abu Sufyan holds a high position amongst the kuffar. This is just hypothetical. Maybe if Zayd agreed and to save his life, let's say he insulted the Prophet ﷺ because he was majboor. Maybe Abu Sufyan, it may have pleased him, and maybe they would have given him respite, a few more days to live, or maybe even set him free, that he's one of us. Listen to his response. He says, Wallahi ma uhibbu anna Muhammad al-an fi makanihi alladhi huwa fihi tusibuhu shawkatun tu'dhihi wa anni jalisun fi ahli. Abu Sufyan, you're saying this, would Zayd like Muhammad here in my place to be killed and I enjoy life with my family? I swear by Allah, I could not even tolerate a thorn pricking Muhammad whilst I enjoy life with my family. Abu Sufyan, one of the greatest enemies of Islam, what do you think he said there after this? He said, ما رأيت من الناس أحدا يحب أحدا كحب أصحاب محمد محمدا. I've never seen anyone love anyone as I've seen the companions of Muhammad love Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Last story. Bilal is in his last throes, the same Bilal, and his wife sitting next to him crying, grieving, Wa huzna, Bilal, you're going. What will become of me? You're leaving me. She's crying, expressing her love. और बिलाल मजे ले रहे हैं. सैयदना बिलाल हबशी रदियल्लाहु ta'ala anhu मजे ले रहे हैं. What are the words flowing from the lips of Bilal? Wa tarba. Oh my beloved wife, this is not a time to cry and grieve. This is a time to express happiness and rejoice. غدا نلقى الأحبة محمد وحزبه. Because tomorrow Bilal will be with his beloved Muhammad and the companions of Muhammad. This is لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. How can you and I attain the same level of love? How can you and I attain the same level of love? Because this is the love that your Nabi seeks from you and seeks from me. My young friends, in a nutshell, you cannot love any individual, never mind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you do not know that individual. How many people that live on the same street as you? You've been living there for 20 years. They've passed by you and you've passed by them for 20 years. but you do not know who they are. You've never made salam. Like strangers you pass by every single day. There is no ta'alluq, there is no connection. Because they don't know you and you do not know them. Where there's no ta'alluq, where there's no connection, there can never be love. How many people in this gathering, balki inside the masjid, there are people here that we see every single day. You know they're inside the masjid because you see them and they see you. But you have no ta'alluq with them. No ta'alluq with them whatsoever. No ta'alluq, never mind love, you have no connection. It's a very cold connection. When you make salam, what happens? The barrier disappears. That's the first time you make salam. You make salam another time, a third time, a fourth time you'll smile at one another. A fifth time you'll ask if are you okay. Seventh, eighth time you'll start talking with one another. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said, shall I not tell you something? That if you do this, you'll begin to love one another. Spread salam between you. You cannot love Rasulullah ﷺ if you don't know who the Prophet ﷺ is. How will you get to know Rasulullah? How will you get to know that individual that was inside your masjid which you didn't know for 20 years? You have to make the ta'alluq, you have to speak. How will you speak with Rasulullah ﷺ? How will the Prophet ﷺ speak with you? My young friends, the life of Rasulullah is right in front of your eyes in the form of the seerah, in the form of hadith. From his birth till his death, every aspect of his life has been covered. Every aspect of his life, from how many children he had, where he was born, what he did as a child, how many wives he's had, their names. Every single aspect of the life of Rasulullah ﷺ has been covered. When you don't, till you don't start reading the seerah, you cannot love Rasulullah. The more you read the life of the Prophet ﷺ, you know, every person that you love, any person that any person ever loves, you know, this in itself is a subject, but very khulasa. Any person that loves any person will only love him for more or less one of three reasons. You'll either love him because he possesses kamal and excellence. Like Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Messi. Why do you love them? You don't even know them from Adam. Their kamal, their excellence in football is what impresses you and your heart is inclined towards them, especially if you're a footballer. Either because of jamal, because of beauty. The way this human being is created, the heart has a natural inclination towards beauty. We like to look at beautiful trees, beautiful scenery, beautiful women. If a woman to walk here now, and she were beautiful, you won't be listening to me. And the last thing, nawal ihsanat. Person loves people that do good to them. Somebody you don't even know from Adam, but you know what? He's gifted you a gift. All of a sudden your heart will become inclined towards him. Why do you love your mother and father? They may not possess any kamal. They may not possess jamal. They might not be good looking. They don't have any excellence. Just a simple guy. Yeah. But why? It's because of their ihsanat. She gave you birth. She's been taking care of you all her life. So it's because of that the heart is inclined. These are the reason any person loves any person. And we love them because they just possess one reason. If you applied these same things, Kamal, Jamal, Nawal, to the Prophet ﷺ, my young friends, you will find there is no one more worthy of your love more than Rasulullah. Because the Prophet ﷺ didn't just possess one quality. He possessed these and all other qualities. And all his qualities had reached the peak of excellence. There was no man greater than him. There was no man more handsome than him. And there was no man that loved Allah's makhluk, whether he was a believer or a non-believer, more than Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The more you look into this, my young friends, the more you will find your heart is becoming inclined towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So on this note, I'm going to conclude, my young friends. If you can take this back, It's the month of Rabi al-Awwal. It's a golden opportunity to learn about Rasul. But okay, my young friends, it should be confined. Our love for Rasulullah should be confined to Rabi al-Awwal. It's become a calendar event. It's still a good thing. It's better than nothing. Seriously? Is this the worth of my Nabi? That he is only worthy of your attention in the month of Rabi al-Awwal? It's become a Christmas. It's become a calendar event, just like Christmas. Take everything out, the decorations, blah, 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 lights, put them on. And then Christmas comes to end, to put them back, put them away. So it's like, Rabi al-Awwal. Oh, the Prophet ﷺ, Prophet ﷺ was born in this month. Let's learn. No, my young friends. It's better than nothing, but no, my young friends. Raise the bar, raise the bar. Salvation, your salvation, my salvation lies in following Rasulullah ﷺ. How are you and I ever going to attain salvation if this is all we do in terms of Rasulullah is attend a gathering once a year in Rabiul Awwal and after that close the book as if it's history? So come, let's take back from here. Balkim, promise your Lord, oh my master, I take it upon myself after today that I will read the entire life of Rasulullah. This the seal nectar, English, easy to read. Read books like this. Read stories about the companions of Rasulullah and their love. It will strengthen your iman. You will develop love in your hearts for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And spend time sending salutation upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Balki, every amal that you do out of nawafil, tell Allah, oh Allah, I'm doing this for you, Nabi. That is also a sign of love. I will conclude on this note. As I began bearing witness, there is no God worthy of worship but Allah. And indeed, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last and final messenger of Allah. May Allah give me the tawfiq to act upon what I've said. And may Allah give you the tawfiq to act upon what has been said. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.